we're going to be taking the Venturis out of this side. We already did that side. Putting 52s back in it. The 56s worked, but I drive this all over on the street and I don't need to be in the higher 7 to 8,500 RPM range. 52 vents are plenty big enough. That's just 2 millimeters smaller than my intake valve. 56s that I have in there now are 2 over. It runs fine, but it's more responsive for sure with the smaller Venturis. So we're not going for all out power, we're going for drivability with a lot of power. So stacks have to come off since these Berg 58's have studs running through them to hold the top down, so they're not like a normal Weber carburetor in that sense, but they do use all the other parts. The back one over here is a little hard to get to. You also don't want to put the wrench all the way in. I did that a while ago and I took the paint off. It's Cerakote. It's very durable, but when you poke something sharp at it, like the point of a wrench, it's not going to hold up. The Cerakote that's on these is heat wicking, so it's supposed to help them run cooler. The last 3 are sunk in, so you got to use it. Wrench it. This is probably the 4th time I changed Venturis, which is pretty normal for me. I'm trying to get it to run as good as I possibly can. Having it being a large engine with a lot of compression on E85, it's not a simple plan on how to make everything work right. So I enjoy doing it. So it's no big deal. But people that always ask about having the same engine, they don't understand it takes a lot of work to keep it going. This one comes out a little hard. This line's going to want to hit right there, so I need to be very careful. It would be easy if I took the fuel line off, but I really don't feel like it, so I'll leave it on. All right, so we got to remove the squirters, the Allen that holds the auxiliary Venturi, and then they pull out. These are called squirters or pump jets. They slide right out. There's a comparison of the two. That one's just a little bit thicker. These ones are super, super thin. So, to chokes the air down a little more. So they just drop right in. This has a side. One side the fuel goes in. Down comes out, little hole there. If you put it backwards, there's no hole on that side, car won't run. So that's just for the little grub screw to hold it in place. Very important. They can go in backwards. And you just make sure it's straight. You don't want it over like that, because the little hole for the fuel is right there. And then you tighten it back up. Pump check goes back on. There's a tab on it, so it doesn't want to move around after it's in. Most people's squirter pump jets just push in with O-rings. These are the 2nd gen Italians, so they screw in with a little washer. That side's done. Oh, come on, you. This entire job takes about maybe 30 to 40 minutes total, if that. It helps when you've done it before. I'm trying to be careful. I don't have spare gaskets for a 58 Berg. I definitely don't want to have to go find some. It's not a typical auto parts store part. Okay. Done. I'm pulling the idle main jets out, changing the airs one bigger, so I can do that now. It's easier. In case you didn't know, these main jets stack as the center ones, and the outer ones are idle jets. There's IDFs and IDAs run the same main stack, just idle jets are on the side in a different style for an IDF. So this is a emulsion tube. These are F11s tapered down. Air jets on the top, main jets on the bottom. It's a 255. We had 200 airs. They just pop out. We're just going to pop it out and put a 205 air. It'll just lean it out a tiny bit, and then the little holder goes on it, and it goes back in. Already did the second one. And you screw them back down. You don't really want to over tighten them, just snug them. Since we're here, there's the float. It's black on these. These are plastic floats. They're either plastic or they're brass. You want them to be about 4 to 5 millimeters above the flat part on the top. There's a little berg tester you can set on it and set them right. And there's a tap back here that you have to adjust. Very important that they're set right. If they're too low, the fuel doesn't flow in correctly to the main circuits, and if it's too high, the float will be higher and the fuel will pour out and come out of this hole just randomly, and then the car runs terrible. So it's very important. Once again, it would have been easier if I pulled that line off, but it's so much simpler to not disconnect fuel lines. One less thing to worry about when you put it back together. I leave the towel there just in case something drips. The E85 will take the paint right off the shroud, so I always cover it. Gasoline would do the same. It always tends to drip out. Since there's fuel still in the line, as soon as you take the cover up, the needle seat drops down, so it wants to feed it fuel. I put the little tiny nut in the socket and then drop it on. Since it's kind of recessed in that little hole, that way it gets on there. back one's a little harder. Same thing. Little tricks you learn over the years to make life easier. Come on, I had you right for. And then, just so you know, this tube right here is a vent tube. Most carburetors just have a small hole. These have a tube that raises up so the fuel won't splash out. I added them to my old carburetors, but these Berg 58's come with them. My carbs are also flipped, so the adjustment screws are on the inside. We custom made the manifold tops, so we did that on purpose. So it's, fuel lines are tucked away. You can see the little tiny spot where the wrench hit it. So I could have them touched up, but you can barely see it, so it's okay. These also go on one way. There's no notches, and there's 2 notches here. So that way they're out of the way for the jet. We do one at a time, just to make it easier. Screens have a little lip. They're custom made. They pop on. Okay, well, I'll start it. We'll cold start it now since